Welcome to the story, Kensington and the Fortress. You are listening to Episode 3, Zion's Music. "It's the Book of Songs and Verses," shouted James as he picked up the delicate ancient manuscript. The book was bound with leather and wrapped with ribbon. James carefully unwrapped it while Martha addressed the younger members of the group. "This book is a cherished treasure for our kingdom. At every festival, these songs were sung and these verses read. Years ago, however, it seemed the book was lost. No one could find it. After searching for months, we assumed it was gone for good." Tears welled up in Martha's eyes when James handed her the parchment. Martha's fingers gently traced the imprint on the cover. The embossment depicted the fortress, with a garden of flowers below and a cypress-lined path leading from the garden to the fortress. "There's a title on the cover," Lizette noticed. "Zion's Music." Anthony jumped in. "Wait, what is Zion?" Kensington had been standing behind the huddled group. He placed his strong arms around the shoulders of both Lizette and Anthony. Looking them in the eye, he sighed. "Zion is the name of the fortress." He hung his head in sorrow, then glanced up at James and Martha. How could we have forgotten Zion's name? The group stood in silent thoughtfulness until James began to sing. "Arise and shine in the light of dawn. Journey on the trail to the great Zion." The younger ones listened intently, while Martha, Santos, Kensington, and Maria joined in. "The beacon shines on the steps you take. Come forth to the light and awake." They discussed where to keep the book and decided the barracks was the safest place for now. Encouraged and energized by the morning's discovery, the group set off to the garden for the day's clearing operations. For the first several hours, the elder members sang and recited songs and verses. The younger members were amazed by how the words and melodies filled their souls with joy. "We are diaconus!" Anthony decided to develop his own chant. Lizette, Julia, Drake, Seth, and Carol added lines. "We are clearing the trail of beauty and life, getting rid of the giants in our land. We're restoring the glory of the pilgrimage path, working side by side and hand in hand." After a few hours of exuberant effort, Drake called for a short break, suggesting they gaze at the fortress tower in respect. As expected, the beam from the tower responded with a brighter radiance. Seth suddenly gasped. "The cypress trees," he whispered, afraid to scare away what he was witnessing. "They're moving." Unbelievably, the trees were shaking off all the thorny vines that covered them. One by one, the hard, rough tanglers fell to the ground. Soon lush green could be seen, though the trees were definitely in need of some pruning. "It's as if they're coming back to life," Carol marveled. "What once was dead has resurrected, bringing forth new life." James remembered yet another verse from Zion's Music. Anthony jumped and ran to the nearest cypress to get a closer look. Lizette jogged behind him. She stopped to gaze up the path and dropped her jaw. Turning to the others, Lizette shouted, "Look up! Look at the stone railing!" "What is going on?" Julia cried as she observed the disintegrating stone wall transforming. "The chips in the stones, they're disappearing, and the dry brown leaves are transforming into a healthy ivy." The group stood amazed. They scanned the area for other signs of miraculous change. "You guys sure stand and stare a lot." Dyer startled the group. Little Mary giggled while her older sister Hannah placed a protective arm around her shoulder. "Children, are you here to help us?" Maria inquired. "Yes, we are," Hannah decided. "Hannah decided to let us visit again today," Little Mary announced excitedly. Hannah explained that she dreamt about the light from the tower all night long. When she woke, Little Mary was standing by her bedside with pleading eyes, asking if they could return to the garden. The sense of peace she had dreamt about caused Hannah to courageously agree. "Mama doesn't know we're here, though, so we can't stay long, but we do want to help." Invigorated by the children's return, Kensington urged everyone back to work. The men grabbed machetes and the women grabbed hoes and sickles. They hurried through a midday meal and resumed their chores. The children helped haul away barrels of cleared thickets. Engrossed in the urgency of the task at hand, the diaconus group neglected to pause and give reverence to the fortress that afternoon. The remembrance of songs and verses was set aside as they focused more on accomplishing their purpose of clearing the garden. Suddenly, a group of giants came lumbering out of the far corner of the garden. The ugly, wart-covered ogres held clubs with spikes and shouted unintelligible threats as they approached. Instinctively, Maria and Martha grabbed the children and escorted them home. Seth and Anthony held their machetes high, ready to fight the ogres. "Wait!" Manuel cried out. "We have forgotten to give reverence to the fortress. Everyone, gaze at the tower now." "James," Kensington ordered, "sing a verse from Zion's music." "We look to the light, we sing songs of praise, in honor and reverence, your glory we raise." James repeated the catchy tune, and the others joined in easily. The lumbering giants slowed their advance. Julia looked over at Seth's machete. "Seth, your machete! It's wiggling! It's transforming!" Everyone stood in awe as the machetes and sickles morphed into shields. "Raise those shields!" Drake cried. As the group raised their shields, a blinding light reflected off the surface of the shields. The approaching monsters covered their eyes and moaned. Each behemoth wailed an eerie cry, and they lumbered away as quickly as their gigantic bodies would allow. Anthony chased them, screaming, "We are diakonos! You have no right to our garden! The path to the fortress is ours!" Drake and Seth joined Anthony, holding high their transformed shields. As the rest of the group observed the giants' retreat, Kensington noted, "Amazing! Our shields blinded the giants." He stroked his chin, following the retreat of the ogres. Once again, these monsters haven't simply retreated back into the garden. They've left it all together.